Ghosting is the most disrespectful, the most hurtful thing anyone can ever do to you. Irrespective of the duration, the intensity, the quality, the kind of relationship, ghosting is the worst possible, one of the worst possible form of disrespect that anyone can ever show to you. And if you have ever experienced being ghosted, if you are living through such a difficult time even right now, please know that I completely understand. I can very well imagine how difficult, how devastatingly heartbreaking, how traumatic this experience can be. And you don't need a professional, a long list of research reports to validate your feelings, the frustration, the anger, maybe even the depressive episodes, the anxiety attacks depending on past experiences, personality types, behavioral tendencies. Everything that you're going through, every feeling that you have right now, the difficulty to get back to rekindle that sense of self-worth, the lack of self-love, the lack of confidence, the self-doubts, the question on self-respect, all of your feelings are valid. And in no way would I ever imply that this video, few minutes of pep talk, or really any of my content for that matter, is ever a substitute for any kind of professional help that anyone may need. That is not the purpose. However, if this helps for all it's worth, if it can add even a tiny little bit of sunshine to your day, then here's what I have to say. First things first, there's a difference between someone who has a tendency to self-isolate when overwhelmed, someone who has a tendency of giving people this silent treatment because they don't know how to trust anyone to really be there with them without blaming and shaming, without guilt tripping, or maybe because they guilt trip themselves a lot, and anything on those lines, which is again a part of trauma response on their part, is very different from someone who decides, who makes a conscious choice to outright, to point blank ghost you. Meaning, up till this point in time, you could be exchanging really friendly, warm, intimate conversations. You could be having a really fun, close, intimate relationship, and right the next minute, just overnight, the very next day, they decide to completely cut you out of their life without an explanation, without one last conversation, without even a goodbye, without giving you any reason. They decide not to meet you, they don't answer your calls, they leave your messages unseen. Point blank, consciously making a choice, making a decision to completely erase you from their life without the slightest possible explanation or reason. That is how brutal and unkind ghosting is. Now, does this inherently mean that they are this all evil person who from the very beginning knew exactly what they were doing and they were always, they from the very start had this conscious thought to deliberately hurt you exactly in this way? Probably not. Maybe not. Not everyone is a narcissist, not everyone is a psychopath. Psychological diagnosis really doesn't work that way. It's not easy to label people. It's easy to label people, but it's not easy to diagnose people, to actually make a clinical diagnosis. And really, for the most part, as an average rule, people are not necessarily this evil, manipulative, dementor from Azkaban characters. Maybe even they are struggling to break this pattern and they don't yet know how to. Maybe even they are trying their best or not yet trying at all to break free from the unhealthy patterns in their own behavior. Maybe working on themselves is not a priority right now because they have other life responsibilities to fulfill. There can be an entire range of possibilities. And I also know that the very generalized statement that of course it's nothing about you and it's all about that other person doesn't help. Because reality is, even if you ever did ask the person who decided to ghost you, and if they ever, in all probability they never will, but if ever they were to give you an answer, they would probably start off with, it's nothing to do with you personally, and they would be right. Reality is, anything to do with you personally, and yet, of all the people in their life, you are the person they decided to give up on. So if you're struggling to make sense of it, there is no sense to be made. That is how irrational, how erratic ghosting is. There is a reason why research will tell you that ghosting is a mark of emotional immaturity. It does not mean someone is a bad person. We all have our own levels of emotional intelligence, and not everyone is emotionally intelligent across every sphere of life. Again, there is more than one kind of intelligence, so we are allowed to be intelligent in our own way, and I mean, all of that is a different topic of conversation. In short, you are allowed to have complete kindness and compassion for the other person and save some kindness for your own self. If they do not consider you worthy of one conversation, even if they do not have the bare minimum empathy to consider your feelings besides their own struggles, it is not your responsibility, it is no longer your responsibility to keep walking all the way over to them and figure out what's going on in their life, what are they struggling with, what is vexing them. At some point, you got to save the same compassion for your own self. And in case you already have, or you were thinking of diving into the plethora of pop psychology content online, which will give you quick tips on what would make them obsess over you, what makes them not leave you, what would make them regret walking out on you, how to win them back, what would make them consider you to be a high value woman or man, however the case might be. Let me save you some time and tell you the crux of this long list of videos or blogs that you may have come across. Here's what they all imply. You have to be this perfectly, completely healed, absolutely mindful, poised, dignified, your bestest self, highest potential person at all times in every phase of the relationship, throughout the duration of the relationship, while they get to be their unhealed versions, while they get to have the time and resource and the privilege of growing within the relationship, which by the way is not a privilege, it's a very natural thing for every person to also require that space to grow within a relationship as much as we grow by ourselves. Do you even see how unfair and unequal a relationship dynamic that pop psychology would sell to you? Let me tell you that you deserve to be accepted, you are worthy, you deserve to be loved, you deserve to be valued even through your unhealed versions. And it's okay if someone cannot see it today. That is fine. Everyone is allowed to heal at their own time, in their own pace, the way they want to, the way they don't want to. Everyone is allowed to make their own choices. But here is why it is not a question on your self-worth. You are worthy for even making this effort of going back, playing the tape back and forth in your mind constantly, trying to figure out what you could have done better, what went wrong, how you could have been a better person, how you could have been there for them, even when right now you are unable to be there for yourself. You are prioritizing what would help you be there for them. That is your worth. I know that we, for whatever reason, live in a world which sees kindness as a lack of self-respect. We live in a world where selflessness is seen as a weakness. It's not seen as a strength of character. Compassion is seen as something to be taken advantage of. We also live in a world where it is extremely difficult for anyone and everyone to trust that someone can be kind without an agenda, and it is equally difficult to find people who are actually kind to us without an agenda. Let's be honest, there's both sides of the story. But here's the thing. If someone is still in that phase of their life where they are unable to see your compassion, your kindness, your empathy, your efforts as a strength of character and see it as a weakness, a lack of self-respect, a reason to consider you too much, too intense, too needy, too clingy in a relationship, they don't know how to value you. And that is fine. Not everyone has to be this deeply feeling, intense person in relationships. Some people can go through life in a more superficial way, and there's nothing wrong with that either. Just like there's nothing wrong with you being such an intense person. We are all different. Nothing justifies ghosting though. And let's be honest, you have tried dissecting their behavior, you have tried explaining their unacceptable behavior, you have tried explaining why they hurt you before they ever realized that they have in fact hurt you, before or even when they didn't even apologize to you for hurting you. You have explained why they couldn't show up for you. You have done that before. So if today you're going down this spiral of this is where I went wrong, this is a moment where I could have said something else, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done that, I could have been better. Yes, you could have. But if you're thinking that if you could just do the right thing, they would not have ghosted you, let me remind you, in all probability, you have done 100 right things for them already. For yourself, in fact, for the relationship. Think back to it. If there were 5-10 moments where you messed up, where you terribly screwed up, you hurt them even when you never really wanted to, where you said something that you shouldn't have said, didn't do something that you should have done, you weren't really able to be there for them the way you wanted to be there for them, you didn't quite understand what they expected from you and you did not meet their expectations, there could have been 5, 10, 20 such incidences. And please remind yourself of the 30, 50, 100 such incidences when you were there for them, even without them asking you to be there for them. Remind yourself of all the incidences where you prioritize them, where you prioritize their needs, where you prioritize being who they needed you to be without giving a thought about who you need in the moment or what you need in the moment. There must have been 100 different times when you said the right thing, did the right thing, gave your all and beyond. And none of that was enough. None of that was enough for them to consider you worthy of one conversation, to give you a chance to grow as a person, to communicate to you what it is that hurt them, what it is that they are going through, what it is that they are unsure about. None of the right things that you did was enough to make them respect you, to give you this one chance. I think that's enough knowledge to realize that no amount of right thing that you could have done would have made them realize your worth, your potential, your capability, your feelings for them. You see, you're right. You may have made a mistake. It may have been your fault. But it's also a fact that they had a choice. They had a choice to communicate the same to you. They had a choice to ask you for behavioral accountability. They had a choice to trust you to understand what hurts them. They had a choice to believe you to be capable of growing as a person. They had a choice to give you a chance of growing as a person. And they denied you that. They had a chance to forgive you the same way you probably have so many times before, even without them being sorry for the impacts of their behavior. You see, being accepted as who you are, a healthy, thriving, loving relationship is not just about being accepted just as you are without expecting any change from yourself or the other person. It is also about allowing the space to grow within the relationship, to forgive each other. We all need 1,000 chances to show up as the person that we want to show up as for ourselves, for each other. We are all just as imperfect, just as messy, and we all need 1,000 chances. If someone decides not to give you that chance, maybe you have not been ghosted. You have been saved. You may not be able to see it today, and that's fine. You don't have to dismiss your present feelings. You don't have to rush over to this healing phase. But please know, you're allowed to feel all the feels and act only on observable facts. Here's a little homework. Make a list of every single person that you have been really close to. Family, friends, cousins, colleagues, acquaintances, romantic relationships, across the board. Make a list of every single person that you have been really close to throughout your life till date. Now, highlight the names, circle out the names, underline the names, however you want to do it. Just mark the number of people who have actually really ghosted you. Refer back to the description, the definition that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, because you see, sometimes we lose touch with people, sometimes we just grow apart, we just grow into very different people, or maybe our life stories take completely different trajectories and we just don't have enough common things, common interest to keep up the connection. And yes, there's a certain ache, certain longing that we feel that, oh, we wish we were still that good friends and those were such good times. And yes, we miss them a lot, but there is no love lost from either side. If you were ever to meet them again, you could pick up from where you left off, you would have a good time, you would probably again start staying, you would probably again keep up the connection or not keep up the connection, but there is no love lost. And we know the difference. There is no disrespect, there is no brutal, unexplained erasure of each other from our lives. We know the difference. I am talking of outright ghosting. How many people in your life have outright ghosted you? Chances are just this one, maybe 2, 3, 5 people. That out of all the people that you know, you tell me, how fair is it to give this one person, this 3, 5 odd people, this level of power over your life to decide what you are worth, to decide if you're lovable, to decide if you're acceptable, to decide if you should just tear away at your sense of self-worth, self-confidence, dignity, respect? How fair is it to give this person, this one person, so much power and completely ignore all the other people in your life? You see, with all the compassion, understanding, empathy that you're still allowed to have for them, save some compassion for your own self too. And realize that this is all you need to know. Circumstances happen. Life goes for a toss. For you, for me, for that difficult person in your life, for the sweetest person we know who completely loses it once in a while, for all of us. But when life hit the rocks, which relationship was the first, the easiest, the most convenient for them to give up? When life doesn't go as planned, who is the one person that they find most convenient to walk out on without the slightest possible explanation in a matter of minutes? I think that's a very clear answer of how little they ever thought of you, how little they ever valued you, how little you ever mattered to them. Reality is, they always have a choice. They have a choice to come back and explain themselves. They have a choice to not give you half truths, to tell you the complete story. They have a choice to apologize. They have a choice to demand accountability from you. They have a choice to ask you to be better. They also have a choice to accept accountability, to tell you how they intend to be better. They have a choice to reconcile. They have a choice to take the relationship forward, and they choose not to. They have a choice to respect your feelings, your side of the story, besides their own struggles and emotional turmoil. It doesn't have to be one or the other, and still they have made a conscious, deliberate choice that you no longer exist for them, that you have stopped existing for them in a matter of minutes. Behavioral science suggests that when someone's behavior does not match up to their words, trust the behavior, not the words, no matter how poetic and eloquent they may have been in the conversations. So here's what you need to know. You don't have to villainize them. Give them grace. Understand their side of things. And know that you still got a life to live. The life that you had envisioned with them, any possible contribution that you had ever expected from them, know that you are perfectly capable of giving it all to yourself. Create that life for yourself, because you still can, and in all probability you already were before they walked into your life. Not out of malice, not out of revenge, no negative feelings attached, but simply because you deserve nothing less. Give yourself the best that you deserve, because you have the perfect potential to still create the life that you had envisioned with or without them. Go ahead, live your life to your best potential. Be your own sunshine.